Hello. I've got my big giant pile of laundry here to fold, and I am ready to chat. Hopefully the kids are all in bed, but you never know, they might keep popping back up. But I thought I would start out tonight by giving you an update on Miss Claudia. She woke up this morning and her rash had went all over. It's like clear down her belly and in her diaper area and down on her legs and her arms. She was just covered with it, but by this evening it's actually almost gone already, and she's just a happy little camper today, and I am glad that we're just about through with this. So I'm not sure what causes roseola. I forgot what the kind of a virus it is, but I know that Asher and Thomas both have had sore throats, and Thomas and I have both had very dry eyes the last few days, so I don't know if that's related to the whole thing or not, but my eyes have felt really dry and tired like they do after I cry, and so that will lead me into telling you about the castor oil. So last night when I went to bed, I went ahead and put a drop of castor oil in each eye, and I can't tell you how amazingly good it felt. Because of my eyes having been so dry, it felt really nice. It just like spread in there and it felt really good. This morning I had kind of oily circles under my eyes, but it felt really amazing. I can't tell you that it did anything other than feel good, but day one, so we'll see what happens with that. So I decided today, since nothing exciting really happened today, I worked on a video, but I didn't really make much progress. I was kind of lazy today, and I guess maybe because in my mind it's like my last day of spring break vacation, because tomorrow is the first Wednesday of the month, which means it's bill paying day, and I have paperwork to do, and I got to kind of get back to normal. So I think I took it easy kind of today, but I decided that I would just go ahead and continue talking about routines and how I do things. I think I'll talk about, I made some notes here about the most important things I view in my day. If I can keep on top of these two things, then I'm feeling pretty good about stuff. So, but I wanted to first tell you about the principles that guided me in making my ideas about this. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was when I used to get very overwhelmed because, well, you know, there's just lots of things that need to be done, and I was a very ambitious person, always wanting to I like to do creative things and decorate and just do all this stuff, and I would get to the end of the day and feel like I hadn't accomplished what I wanted to do, and I felt really sad about it. And of course, the whole point of living is God refining us and making us the right person on the inside, and He accomplishes that by what we're doing on the outside. So He was dealing in my heart about all of that, and it jumped out at me one day that Paul told Timothy in one of his letters that about how, you know, not to be deceived by chasing after wealth and all those kinds of things, but if we have food and clothes, to be content with that. So I thought, okay, I need to be content with food and clothing. That's got to be my thing. Like, if I can accomplish that in a day, then I'm having a fine day, and I don't need to worry about anything else. Of course, if I get more done, that's awesome, but I'm going to be content with not just having food and clothes, but accomplishing food and clothes, if you will. So I then decided, how do I define that? Like, obviously having enough food and clothes someone else's definition might be very different than mine. So I needed some way of determining what was sufficient food and clothes. So that's where I came to Proverbs 30, and then I think it's also mentioned in the Psalms a couple times, and then Jesus quotes it in the Lord's Prayer, but it's give us this day our daily bread. And in the proverb it actually says, it's in Proverbs 30, and he says something to the effect of, don't give me poverty, but don't give me wealth. Give me instead my daily bread. Because if I have wealth, I might forget you, talking to God, and if I'm poor, I might be tempted to steal. So he just wanted to have just enough, which was his daily bread. So to me, that means enough food for today. It doesn't mean that I have huge stores of food. It doesn't, of course, mean that I have nothing. It's just if I have something to eat today, then that's enough. So to me, the definition of poverty is not having something to eat today. If I don't have a pantry stock, that's not being poor. That's just the way it is. So that's how I defined having enough food, was today's food. And then when it came to clothes, I was led by when John the Baptist was baptizing everybody, and they're asking him, what should we do, because the kingdom of God is coming, and they're not sure what the rules are in this new kingdom. And so he's telling people, he tells like the soldier to be content with his pay and not want more than that. And he tells a man that if you have 2 shirts, give one away. So that's when I had to determine that having clothes on my back is enough clothes. It doesn't mean having a closet full of clothes. It means literally not being naked. If you are not naked, then you have enough clothes. And of course it's nice to have 2 of something, because if you want to wash it, you need something to put on. So I decided 2 would be my limit, but 1 really is enough. The whole thing again is not that having things is wrong or bad. It's the heart issue. It's always the heart issue. That's always the guiding principle here. And Jesus, when he had the rich, I think they call it the rich young ruler in the subtitle, or the title thing, not the subtitle, but the little title heading over the story in the Bible. But it's the man that came and he said, what do I need to do? He went his whole life without ever breaking any commands, and he'd done everything perfectly, so what else did he need to do? And Jesus told him, because he was rich, that he needed to go sell everything he had and give it to the poor. And the rich man was sad because he knew he couldn't do that. And that's the reason Jesus required it of him. It's not that we all had to sell everything we have in order to get into heaven. That wasn't the point. The point is that he's concerned with what's going on in your heart. And he knew that this man loved his wealth. And he was showing him that you're going to put your love of wealth, above me and what I want you to do. So that was one example. The other example that always comes to mind is the other rich man. I think this one was just a parable. I don't think this was actually happened. I'm not sure, but anyways, that the man who didn't have any sons, and he was wealthy, and he brought in his harvest, and he had so much that he didn't have enough barns to hold all of his grain. And instead of selling his grain, which he wasn't even required to give it away, he just was supposed to sell it. And instead of selling it, he said, no, I'm going to tear down my barns and build bigger barns, because he wanted to keep it all for himself. And then God says, you fool, your life will be required of you tonight. And so he was killed because of his heart. It wasn't the fact that he had it, it's that he was unwilling to share it or sell it or whatever. It was like he wanted to keep it all for himself. So those are kind of the guiding principles that I try to keep in mind when I am when I do what I'm about to share with you that I do. Because the whole thing is, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And one day the boys and I were talking about this, and so I gave as an example how much easier it is to be generous when you don't have very much, which seems counterintuitive. But if you only had $1 and you gave half of it away, you wouldn't really be that upset about giving away 50 cents. But if you had $1 million and you had to give a half of it away, it would be a much more difficult thing to do, because who wants to give away $500,000? Well, anyone would give away 50 cents, but giving away $500,000 is really difficult, which is ridiculous, because you'd still have $500,000, and in the other case you only have half of a dollar. But that's just what happens. The more you have, the more you depend on what you have instead of depending on God. And that's the whole thing with not, don't give me poverty, don't give me riches, just give me this day my daily bread. And so for us, oh, actually, I want to mention one more thing. Another proverb, I actually have I made a picture of this and I have it hanging in my pantry because I have a little room in our house that is, we call it Mills Market, and it's our little pantry, and we have it set up kind of like a grocery store in there. But I have framed the proverb that says, in the house of the wise are stores of choice food and wine. And the principle is on that one that from harvest to harvest, you shouldn't eat up all you have. You should make it last until the next harvest. And a wise person stores up some food and makes it last. Of course, not being stingy and unwilling to share or give away or just be generous with other people, but that it's a wise thing to have stuff on hand. So that's how I operate. I keep, like I said, I operate like kind of like a grocery store. And so what I do is when things go on sale at our regular grocery store that I like, or that I know we'll eat, I buy cases of it. So this week they had tomato soup on sale for 69 cents a can, so I bought 2 cases of it, and that'll last us, many months, and that's just how I do it. So it actually started out as being one little set of shelves that I had, and I don't remember what all I had. I just remember boxes of cereal on that shelf. That was probably 8 or 10 years ago that I first started this whole pantry thing, but I just started with that, and I slowly kept adding more shelves, and then eventually we remodeled the whole room and built in nice shelves. But I now just keep it stocked with all the things we like. So when we go in there, there's always food. We could probably, I was telling Christy today that we could probably eat for a month at least just on the stuff that's stored up in there. So it actually keeps the grocery budget much smaller, because when I'm mostly buying everything on sale, then we're spending, I don't know, many percentages less than the average person on their groceries, because everything in there pretty much was bought at a cheaper price than normal. So anyways, I would say we probably spend about 40% less on groceries than we would if we were just buying things as we needed. And of course I still go to the store every week and I buy, fresh fruit, and we need bread for the week, and meat sometimes. It just depends on what we've got in the freezer and all that. So I'm still going to the store every week, but I first am looking to see what's on sale and stocking up on the stuff that we need to stock our pantry, rather than just buying stuff for that week's meals. So that is my tip on how my routine, I guess you would say, on our food issues, and making sure that we have stuff on hand. But at the same time, if the day ever came that I would be devastated if something happened and it was all gone, that would be the day that I need to get rid of it, because I don't want to ever become dependent on that and feel like I have stored up and I am secure because of what is in there, because it does not make me secure to have that. God is the one that makes us secure, and if we had nothing in there, we would still be just as secure as we are right now. So there's been other things in my life that have been that way. When I realized that I was starting to have the wrong heart attitude, that's when I needed to stop it. For instance, one time, or for several years before my mom died, it just happened that I started going out to her house on Sunday afternoons or evenings, and we would watch a show together, and I would spend the evening with her. And over time, it just kind of started as, it just happened, but then over time it started to become like my night off kind of a thing. And eventually something happened one day when I didn't get to go for some reason, and I remember feeling kind of bitter about it, like, that's my night off and I deserve a night off. And that was, to me, the sign that I needed to stop this, because it was taking on the wrong thing in my heart. And so I quit going, and that was the end of it. After a while, I would still go out and visit sometimes, but I realized that it was taking root in my heart in the wrong way, and I didn't want that. So it's the same thing with the pantry, is I don't ever want it to become a thing that I actually feel secure because of it. I only do it because it's a good routine and it's a wise use of our money, but not because I actually want to be or feel like I'm secure against something because of it. So so there's that. On the issue of clothes, having too much of anything is just as much of a problem as not having enough. And so over time we have started, I don't know, many years ago, all wearing the same color, and we pretty much only have, I want to say there's 9 colors that we wear. I'm not for sure. I can't say absolutely, but that means the boys have 9 shirts and the girls have a little bit more than that because everyone buys them clothes. But Tom and I each have the same basic amount of clothes as the kids, and it just makes it easy to stick to a routine and makes it easy getting dressed in the morning because nobody has to think about it. They just put on whatever color we're wearing that day and we're good to go. And it somehow keeps the laundry down, so that's really great. But as far as a routine with food and clothes on a daily basis, I will say that when, well, we have a lot of activities at our house. People are coming all the time. The place gets destroyed every day. And so always my first thing, especially if I'm feeling overwhelmed, is I take care of 3 things. I make sure that, well, first we take care of all the trash because somehow, especially when people are over, like just stuff explodes and there's like literally garbage laying around on the floor and on the counters and everywhere. So we take out the trash first, and then we make sure we have a plan for the meal that day, for supper, and make sure the dishes are done. So we take care of food, so we have something to eat and something to eat it on. And third is clothes, so we will make sure that the laundry cycle continues on and pick up anything that's laying around, socks and shoes, and put them away and get whatever's in the dryer out and start a new load in the washing machine. And if I can get those 3 things done, usually the rest of it doesn't ever seem nearly as overwhelming, and I feel like I have to be content with that. Of course, most of the time I want to get a lot more done than that in a day, but I have to, in my heart, accept the fact that if that's as far as I get, then it's still a good day, and let it go after that. So, I guess, I feel like there's something else I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. So I'm going to keep folding my laundry, and I will see you guys tomorrow.